Hi, I'm Maria Matarelli, founder and president of Formula Inc., co-founder of the Agile Marketing Academy and Personal Agility Institute. And I'm excited to be presenting at the Experience Agile Conference on conscious communication and how to build a culture of empowerment through personal agility. Now, when we look at this concept of a culture of empowerment, we need to be able to connect with people. And I mean a little bit deeper than just telling people what to do or assigning tasks to them. Really truly connecting with people. Even as we look at the Agile Manifesto, the first value can be summarized as people over process. Can we get more specific in focusing on how to connect with people and how to be more innovative and how to think more creatively rather than just following process or frameworks or systems and going through the motions of how things have always been done. Also, when you look at people and how much their focus is on work versus outside of work, only about a third of someone's day is spent at work. If they're working an 8-hour day out of 24 hours, there's around 2/3 of the day left where they have other influences and other things that are impacting their life. So if we truly want higher performance in our organization and in our teams, then we need to look at how to better and more effectively connect with people and connecting with people as a whole person. Because if people don't feel valued, if they feel like they're just going through the motions at work, if there's nothing to get excited about, well, then they're probably going to do just the bare minimum. But if we can truly tap into what motivates people and energizes them and work with them to create something that they can be a part of that they feel really good about, well, now we're going deeper. And so I want to talk about motivational value systems and how by understanding what people's motivational value systems are, we can connect more deeply with people by understanding what really motivates them. Now, these concepts come from Dr. Elias Porter, who developed relationship awareness theory. And I'd like to start off by exploring and walking through the 4 premises of relationship awareness theory. So the first premise is looking at behavior is driven by motivation to achieve self-worth. So when most people are doing something, the way that they're acting or responding, it's often coming from a place of preserving their self-worth. And if we know that, perhaps we can be kinder to people. Perhaps we can look at their best intent or look at their perspective a little bit deeper. The second premise is that motivation changes when in conflict. So when things are going well, the way someone responds, well, nothing's wrong, can be very, very different in what motivates them to respond when things are not going well. So understanding that motivation changes when there's conflict present can help us, one, to identify when there's conflict, and then also to look at how to really diffuse any challenges that might come up. The third premise is when we look at overdone strengths are really where we have weaknesses come into play. So it's not just that someone has a weakness, it's often just an overdone strength that can be perceived as a weakness. So for example, if someone has a strength of confidence, but if it's overdone, they might come across as cocky or conceited and might come off in a negative manner when they meet people. Well, it's not that that's a weakness, it's just a strength that's done too strongly. And so if it's an overdone strength, if we can pull back on that, then maybe it will be okay, right? We can look for those overdone strengths and look at keeping those in a certain level of boundaries. Also, when we look at how your viewpoint and your perception is influenced, right? So we have a filter or a lens in how we look at the world, in what our motivational values are. And not everybody is motivated in the same way. So if you assume that other people are going to be motivated the same way that you are, that might not be the case. So let's explore some of the motivational value systems in a little bit more deeper detail. So when we look at motivation, intention, and behavior, when your self-perception is based on what you're seeing and what you know that you're trying to do. So when you have an intention, you have a motivation, and the way that you act You understand where that intention's coming from, but other people's perception of you is based on what they're seeing you do. They're only seeing that outside behavior. They're not seeing your internal intention or your internal motivations. And this is where often conflict comes into play, because you might have the best intentions, but other people only see your actions. So the more that we're aware of this, the better that we can communicate and more effectively understand that people may not mean to be disconnected with what we are thinking. Perhaps there's just a misunderstanding or a misalignment. So let's go a little bit deeper into the 3 primary motivational value systems next. The first one, it can be represented by the color blue for altruistic and nurturing. So this is somebody who really cares about the well-being of others and wants to help other people. And so to motivate someone who has this motivational value system, you might talk about impact, or talk about the number of people that you'll help, or talk about the outcome and the output. And that's a way of saying, appealing to someone that's more nurture-based in how they like to be motivated. If we look at the color red, it represents someone who is assertive or directing. And this is someone who's highly motivated by achievement. This is something that resonates really strongly with me. I actually am a blend of a little bit of the achievement and assertive directing, and with a dash of the blue, a dash of the nurture. And so if there is a prize, a trophy, I want it. Certificate, gotta have it. If there's a contest or competition, I want to win. And so the way that I'm motivated by a challenge might be completely different by someone else that I'm working with. And if I'm trying to say, hey, we can break this record, or hey, we've got to achieve this by this deadline, that might not be motivating enough to talk to someone else about how to approach a specific goal. But I might say instead, hey, we could really help a lot of people, especially if we get this done by this date, and we can help all these people in this way. And here's the specific impact it's going to have. That's how you connect with somebody who's more motivated through nurture. Now, let's look at the third, green, which is altruistic and analytical. So this is someone who is like autonomizing. They want to look at what are the facts, what's the data, what is it that is going to be, really the right answer and the right solution. So this person might want to know the facts. They might want to do some research, and they're motivated by knowing that it makes sense and it's the right choice. So you may see how if you have one motivational value system and someone else has a different motivational value system, you could be completely disconnected if you're trying to motivate them through the same way that you like to be motivated. Through the same lens, it might not necessarily make sense. It might not work. So you can also have a blend of any 2 of these motivational values, and you could also be a combination of all 3, looking at the greater good for all parties involved in all ways. So you might be imagining now people that you work with, that you know, that you interact with on a daily basis, that you think they're a little bit more red or a little bit more blue or even green, or even a combination. You might also be thinking of how some of these motivational values resonate with you and what motivates you and how people connect with you and talk with you about what's important. So keeping in mind that as we connect with people and we want to tap into what really motivates them, there's different methods, different ways, different words that you may use to really connect with what really resonates with them in how they're motivated at their core. So in an organization, we want to be in alignment, because if we are not connecting with people, if we are not understanding how to really motivate the other people that we work with, if we're not working toward the same goal with clear alignment, then what are we doing? How do we expect to achieve the goals of our organization? It might be very challenging because everybody's going in different directions. And so one of the things that we can do to create more alignment is leverage some tools from the personal agility system. So we have the forces map, which is looking at the top 3 to 4 things that really matter and looking at what parameters might exist there. And so as we're looking at the greater forces, this can apply in your life, and it can also apply at scale in an organization. If you know what really matters in your life, then it becomes very clear what to say no to. It becomes very clear what should be prioritized, and it can be a lot easier to reach your goals because it's a lot more clear cut. Now, if you're looking at this within an organization, whether it's a personal or business context, if everything matters, then nothing matters because you can't get through everything. There's just simply too much to do. So if we can be clear on what those things are that are those highest priorities and limit our focus as the main forces being just 3 to 4 top initiatives. Now, by limiting our focus, limiting the initiatives in progress, that's going to help us be way more effective in achieving those things, because instead of making just an inch progress in multiple different categories and not a mile progress in any one area, now we can actually get something completely done fully to completion. So when we look at the forces map, that can create a lot more visibility for us. Next, we also have the priorities map. So being able to have a visual of these things that really matter to us, and then brainstorming and speculating on what are the possibilities, what are the things that you could do to support these high priorities that you have. And even looking at why are you doing these things? Why are these things important? And then looking at what's urgent, what needs to get done by a deadline, and other things that are important and urgent from all the possibilities, what's your actual plan of what you're going to do? And when you can visualize this stuff very clearly, that's going to allow us to be able to take the steps forward that we need to do in order to get the work done. And so with alignment, if we can't see it, if we can't visualize it, if we don't know that we're on the same page, how can we expect to truly have a high-performing organization? And so I'd like to share another tool that you can use to create better alignment and also connect more with other people. So this is the Personal Agility System Stakeholder Canvas. You can download a copy of this for free at personalagilityinstitute.org/free tools. And what this does is it walks you through how to have a conversation with a stakeholder or someone else that you work with to really understand what's most important to them and what really matters. What are their risks, fears, and concerns? What is the ideal outcome? What's the happiest path that could exist? What are some of the things to consider from their perspective that's most important to them? And by walking through and understanding what's most important, this can allow us to more effectively create alignment with those things that matter. So this all comes back to connecting with people on what really matters and understanding how to communicate most effectively with them and how to tap into motivation. And if we can do that, then we can really create self-organizing teams. Something really powerful that happened recently is I was coaching an executive team through using personal agility. And as we had a workshop and did weekly check-ins, there was something very profound that happened from the CEO. And this is a company that is one of the fastest growing medical software platforms in the Tampa Bay area here in Florida in the US. And it's a HIPAA compliant patient engagement software. And so they're looking at how to better streamline the communications between doctors' offices and patients. And as they're looking at doing this, they had a 3-year plan. And by leveraging Agile, I've been coaching and training the team over the last year, by leveraging Agile techniques, we've been able to get to the ideal valuation in 1.5 years of $35 million. And that's hitting the full valuation in half the timeline. And so we can expect that with Agile. But here's one of the other key components that really was one of the most effective things for the team. You see, as they were looking at scaling, it was very complex. HIPAA compliance, lots of regulations, looking at how they're developing the code and having secure servers and so many different details to be concerned about. And one of the things that they did was they were looking at how to most effectively carry all this work forward. And one of the things that the CEO said that was the most incredible thing with being able to let go and let his leadership team really step up, it was by using the personal agility system and connecting on what really matters, by understanding exactly how much in alignment that they were, by understanding what really was important to the other people that he worked with, by understanding that they really truly were aligned in vision, allowed him to step back, delegate more, create pods within the leadership team, and then truly create self-organizing teams within the organization to set the tone for everything that was done. And I'm so incredibly proud of the eCover team and their CEO and the steps that they've taken, because what they've been able to do is really have groundbreaking success in an industry that's very complex while in the midst of a global pandemic. And to be able to provide needs for patients and connecting them with medical providers in a time where we have so much complexity and so much chaos is more important now than ever before. Now this all goes back to this question, this powerful question of what really matters. And when you know what really matters, that can set the tone for everything else that you do. Personal agility has been used by people around the world, and it's incredible to hear all of the amazing case studies and successes that they've had. So as you look at creating more visibility, communication, and alignment in your organization, and really looking at building a culture of empowerment, I'd like to encourage you to leverage tools like the stakeholder canvas. Look at how to make things visible. Identify the top 3 to 4 things that are most important, that really matter as the forces in your life or in your organization. And keep visibility on what those priorities are. And if you lay that out in a priorities map, you can see it every day, every week, and you could celebrate and choose what to do next and anything that you might want to do differently. The choice is yours on what it is that you want to do next and how you can really help build that culture of empowerment by connecting with people, understanding what really matters to them and what motivates them, and then also becoming in more alignment with the other people around you by knowing what really matters and being sure that you're on the same page. For more information, please go to personalagilityinstitute.org/free tools to download the free tools. You can find more resources and case studies on the site. Thank you.